Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I know we're standing between you guys and probably a happy hour or a dinner, so we'll try to make this as quick as possible. By way of introduction, my name is Tony Driver. I'm an account manager with AWS. And if you're here with us this afternoon, odds are you're either a public sector customer or a public sector partner. Is that a fair assumption? Public sector customers and partners? Okay, good. All right, so you're in the right place. But before we get started today, by show of hands, how many of you have purchased something on Amazon in the last week or so? Yeah, okay, pretty much everybody. Has anybody returned anything? Okay, a few less. So I'll admit, I actually made my first return on Amazon.com about 2 or 3 weeks ago for some soccer cleats for my son that were a size too small. Big surprise. And I made my first return. I went to the My Orders page, clicked return. I selected my drop-off location, drove across the street to the UPS store, scanned the QR code, dropped the box, off I went. Within a couple hours, I had a refund or a credit in my Amazon account and a personalized email from a customer care rep, just inquiring to make sure I had a good experience with the return. And while that alone doesn't sound like anything incredible or transformative, when you consider the scale at which Amazon.com operates, delivering over 2 million packages across the world daily, that type of individualized customer experience takes on a whole new magnitude for customers like all of us in the room, who inevitably have one thing in common. Whatever you're buying on Amazon or from AWS, one thing is true about all customers. You'll never be happy. We always want faster delivery, more selection, lower prices, better customer service. And in this era of just rapidly adapting customer demands, it's hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up for public sector entities. It's hard to keep up for private sector entities. And I'm really proud today to introduce to you all a customer of mine, California Employment Development Department, who's in the midst of a multi-year modernization effort called EDD Next, which you'll hear our guests talk about in short order, to fundamentally change the way that they deliver services to their constituents, the citizens of California, of which there's 40 million, almost 40 million, and unwind decades of accumulated tech debt. Slide. So I'm really, really proud to introduce to you again EDD. We're going to start broad. We're going to hear from Director of EDD Nancy Farias about what EDD is, what their core mission is to the public, and what their core charter is. We're going to then drill down with Ron Hughes, who's the Deputy Director of the EDD Next project, about what they've accomplished so far to date. We're going to hear about what's on the immediate horizon and what you can expect in the years to come, months and years to come. And then we're going to get pretty technical towards the end. You're going to hear from Chris Carter, an Amazon Web Services, Amazon Connect specialist, who's going to dive really deep into one of the solutions that the EDD Next project has delivered so far, Amazon Connect, specifically for the disability insurance program. So I'm really excited. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I know we're standing between you all and dinner. So with that, and without further ado, Director Nancy Farias.
Thank you, Tony. Good job. Okay. Okay, so I am the opposite of Tony. I'm old. I need my glasses because I can't see anything. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tony, so much for that introduction, and thank you all for your warm welcome. Thanks to Amazon for this. I mean, this so far has been very exciting, and I have hit every happy hour, and I plan on doing that right after this as well. So I am also standing in the way of my own happy hour. So as Tony mentioned, my name is Nancy. I'm the director of the Employment Development Department, affectionately known as EDD. Some of you have probably heard of us before. As one of the largest state departments in California, we have almost 10,000 employees, more than 225 office locations, we are a stabilizing force for Californians by providing billions of dollars a year in unemployment, disability insurance, paid family leave benefits, and we provide support to those in the workforce. Little known fact about EDD, we also collect approximately 40% of the state's general fund, making EDD the largest personal income tax collection entity in the US, second to the much beloved IRS. I mean, we are the 5th largest economy in the world in California, so you kind of expect some of these numbers, right? So today, I just want to take a few minutes to talk about our modernization project at EDD. As Tony mentioned, EDD Next. We are transforming EDD into EDD Next, which is the future of EDD, the modernization of our department. Through EDD Next, we are taking action to improve EDD and the experience of our customers through technology, but more importantly, through common sense. Its mission is to transform the customer experience, empower job seekers and employers, and ensure security as we go through this modernization project. Our approach is to tap into customer-centric innovations to bring employers and employees together using innovative delivery systems to make access to these services simple, fast, and streamlined. Words you don't necessarily hear in state government a lot. So let me give you a little bit of context about how large California is and why we are embarking on this modernization project. Oh. Because I don't know when to do it. Demand for our services skyrocketed overnight during the pandemic. You probably read the newspaper a little bit. It tested our benefit system beyond anything ever experienced. Just to give you some context, 20 million unemployment benefit claims compared to just the 3.8 million during the Great Recession. So that was a huge jump. More specific example that I think everyone can appreciate is our unemployment claims went from 58,000 claims in 1 week to over 1 million the very next week during the pandemic, during the first couple of weeks of the pandemic. So as you can imagine, the state, our EDD, the legacy systems, just weren't designed for that kind of magnitude. So naturally, the pandemic forced us to reconsider the direction of the modernization effort that was underway, made us realize that we were not putting the needs of our customer first, as witnessed by the number of claims that our staff had to complete manually, also the number of times that we were in the press and in front of the legislature also was a telling sign. It also showed us, and this is one of the big reasons why I am here, also to talk about the IT, but it also really showed us that our policies and procedures were outdated. We needed to look at the department holistically. For example, you're gonna love this. We had a policy that flagged a claimant if their last name was more than 15 letters, requiring a manual review by staff. So we learned real quick that if you don't change your policies and procedures along with the IT is not going to mean that much, right? So we have amazing dedicated staff, worked 24/7 during the pandemic to manage the demand. But we also we helped our employees by turning to additional support from our vendor partners. For example, during the pandemic, we received an unprecedented number of phone calls. 1 week, we had around 10 million calls. Now, there are not enough state employees in the world that can answer all those phone calls, right? Mostly asking for the status of their claim, something very simple and something that everybody wants to know, right? What is the status of my claim? So we knew right away if we could communicate the status of the claim to our customers, we would alleviate a ton of the calls. So to support this type of level of demand, we are modernizing our call centers to integrated contact centers based on Amazon Connect. As of last week, not month, I think yesterday or the day before, we have migrated our disability insurance contact center and overflow call support. Our solution now supports self-service for our disability insurance customers, giving them the ability to get their claim and payment status without speaking to an agent. You are going to see that in a little bit. That's going to be, you're going to have a run through of that. And while you may say, oh, big deal, you know, what is this? Trust me, for a department like EDD, it is a big deal. For state government, it is a big deal. To support these levels of call demands, nope, I already said that. We have enabled many new services to deliver superior experience to our customers, like conversational interactive voice response system and a callback option without losing your place in line. With AI and ML-based modern contact center solutions, we have laid the foundation to deliver new services to our customers and our employees who support them. And while our disability branch was first, we plan to use the same technology both in our unemployment insurance branch as well as our tax call centers. So, you know, we also recognized that we needed to have a better understanding of who our customers are and what they need from EDD in order to have a successful experience. It's sort of unusual for state government, I would say. One of the more important solutions that we integrated was creating a language access office and really diving into our translation services that were extremely limited before the pandemic. Knowing that 1 in 5 Californians speak a language other than English at home, we have made huge investments in helping California's diverse communities. Now, using technology, we can continuously translate our vital documents into the top non-English languages. Usually when it comes to government, customers want one of two things, besides, of course, not having to deal with government at all: self-service or the ability to call and get someone on the phone quickly. What they don't want is to fall into a black hole of bureaucracy. So how do we ensure customer satisfaction? Another first investment that we made post-pandemic was establishing a customer experience team to learn about our customers' needs and preferences and applying that to our modernization efforts. Second, our user experience team conducts research into our program applications to see how we can make them user-friendly for our customers and more efficient for EDD to process. The two teams work together. For example, we took the customer user experience team research and feedback and partnered with some of the best, like Amazon Web Services, to implement call center technology that we didn't have previously to the pandemic, like, as I mentioned, holding your place in line and getting a call back, rather than waiting on hold. Just this alone has greatly impacted our relationship with our customers. It's important to note that we are not doing what some people would call a big bang when it comes to modernization, and it's not like flipping a switch. We truly want the customers to see and feel the changes as we move iteratively through stages, and more importantly, we want their feedback. One of the best ways to measure success for a huge department like EDD is to see a reduction in calls, which I've talked about now like 4 times, right? Providing more self-service options for people. And we have several initiatives underway. We migrated our chatbot to our web visitors and all external-facing web pages on the EDD website support chatbot. With this migration, we are laying a foundation for a multilingual support for diverse communities, a huge feat in California. This is also, of course, a precursor laying the foundation for live chat and Gen AI self-service support. Again, incrementally laying the foundation for speech-to-text, text-to-speech access for those FAQ responses for callers who are in our contact center, expanding self-service as we lead up to a live chat with EDD agents in 2025 using state employees. The number one reason customers dislike bots is the inability to get an agent. That's how we all feel. We'll be closing that gap as quickly as possible as we move into the next year. And how do we keep ourselves in check, right? We have a Voice of the Customer program, which gives us a really good understanding of the experience of our customers. We collect customer feedback across their journey and can better identify the good, the bad, the ugly, do more of the good, less of the bad, or fix the bad and the ugly in real time. Our modernization effort at EDD touches every branch, every function within the department. Earlier, I mentioned that we are the largest personal income tax entity in the US, second to the IRS. To support this massive operation, we need high-performance solutions, and we need those solutions to be resilient. As such, we successfully migrated our tax application to our EDD-managed Amazon Web Services cloud recently, which I found out what the cloud was 5 minutes ago. Our application processes over 110 billion in annual payroll tax filings by California employers. And through the AWS cloud, we have better disaster recovery, something else we just talked about, and improved performance to support our customers. And so I'm just going to close with some super quick advice, not to stand in the way of happy hour. My first bit of advice is don't start as far behind as we were. You should modernize, if you can, iteratively and often. Make sure that you deliver improvements that center on your customers, because your customers also, super important, your customers also include your staff if you are in public service. And understanding budget constraints, we have some in California, and I've mentioned this, modernization is more than just technology. Build an organizational culture that focuses on customer needs. Look at your policies and procedures. That is also part of the modernization. Commit to the customer research. Just don't rely on what you think should happen, because if I rule the world, you know. So together, these actions will help build an organization that delivers excellent customer service. So thank you so much. I cannot see. Thank you. Oh, and Ron is going to be up on. Ron is now coming up on stage.
You guys would have figured it out eventually. Hey, thanks, Nancy. Nancy did a great job of talking about what we're doing and why we're modernizing EDD and how we're taking a customer-centric approach to it. Let me advance the slide. What I'd like to talk about is what our modernization looks like from a technology point of view and why we chose a cloud-based solution with AWS. So when we talk about modernizing EDD, most people view it as one big project, but it's really not. It's a series of projects, and they're all the direct result of the lessons we learned during the pandemic. For example, during the pandemic, as Nancy mentioned, we went from 58,000 claims per week to over 1 million in 1 week. I think we peaked out at 2.5 million claims per week. Our legacy technology just couldn't scale to keep up with the volume of claims. People tried to log in for our online system. They couldn't get logged on. We didn't have the technology or tools in place to handle that volume of claims. Since they couldn't log on, they called. We couldn't answer the calls. Again, we didn't have the technology in place to handle the volume of calls. Because they couldn't file online, they couldn't call, they sent in paper claims. This overwhelmed our document management system. And to give you an example, we process 15 to 20 million paper documents a year and over $1 billion in paper checks. So our existing system was 20 years old, had really never been modernized. These are the 7 work streams that make up EDD Next, and I am not going to talk about all of them, but I wanted to talk to you about a couple of our solutions. We implemented a shared customer portal. Now, previously, there was a separate claims intake portal for each program. We put together a new Salesforce-based customer portal that we call MyEDD. It's a single portal for all of our programs. It's hosted in the Salesforce cloud, and most importantly, it's designed to be scalable to the workloads we saw during the pandemic plus 20%. We hope we never see those workloads again, because that was not a great time for California. We also implemented AWS Connect as our contact center solution. This cloud-based contact center solution gives us the ability to scale when needed, and also gives us access to tools and technologies that weren't available with our previous solution. And then we're also in the process of implementing a new document management solution. It'll allow us to much more efficiently handle the millions of paper documents that we have to scan and process. So I thought you might be interested in seeing a roadmap of how we approach the project and how we prioritize the improvements. Basically, we prioritized the projects that would have the biggest impact on the public and did those first. In 2022, we were really focused on putting our team together, doing customer research and focusing on customer experience. In 2023, we rolled out our shared customer portal. It was initially available only in English and Spanish. We added 6 additional languages. We now support 8 languages in our shared customer portal. We also focused on simplifying the language in our applications. In 2024, we migrated all of our disability insurance contact centers to AWS Connect. We started modernizing our document management system, and we migrated our ACES application to AWS. Again, the ACES application is the largest tax collection application in California, and I think it collected over $110 billion in taxes last year. In 2025, we'll migrate our unemployment insurance program over to AWS Connect and implement our new frictionless ID proofing solution, Secure. And in 2026, we'll focus on modernizing our new ICMS systems and migrating unemployment insurance, then disability insurance, then paid family leave to our new solution. I wanted to talk about the contact center specifically. These are some of the enhancements that we implemented as a result of moving to AWS Connect. Again, I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I want to touch on a few of them. Nancy talked about virtual hold with an estimated wait time. Previously, when you called EDD, you got put on hold, you had no idea how long you're going to be on hold. So no longer do customers have to do that. Now when they call, they're told how long the hold time is going to be. If they don't want to wait for it, we've also enabled scheduled callback. So if the wait time's too long, you can pick a time and an agent will call you back. We're also authenticating the customer up front. This is critical as it allows us to provide information to the claim without having to talk to an agent. It also saves time when the agent tries to look up the status of your claim. Interactive voice response. Once you've been authenticated, then you can get the status of your claim without having to wait for an agent. Again, this may not seem like a big improvement, but approximately 2/3 of our customers that are interested in getting the status of their claim do it through our interactive voice response and don't have to wait for an agent. So it's a big improvement to our efficiency of the contact center. Lastly, we'll be rolling out this solution to our unemployment insurance program in 2025. I talked about why we went to a cloud-based solution, why we went to AWS. This slide really highlights a couple of the reasons why we wanted to make the change. Scalability. We needed a solution that could scale as our workload changes. During a pandemic or a recession, the number of claims could increase exponentially. Having the ability to scale the infrastructure was really a critical factor in us choosing AWS. Redundancy. Having a disaster recovery built into the solution was a mandatory requirement for our new contact center. Hey, if our contact centers are down, people can't get in touch with EDD to find out the status of their claim. And then adaptability. Being able to modify our solutions as our program needs change was an important consideration. We get program changes every year. Having the ability to adapt to these changes was a critical reason why we went with a cloud-based solution. Hey, I know it's not the most interesting application you've ever heard of, but modernizing our document management solution was a critical part of EDD Next. I mentioned before, we get 15 to 20 million paper documents a year. It requires a pretty sophisticated document management solution. Our new solution runs in AWS and allows us to much more efficiently manage the documents, the scans, and the images. As I mentioned previously, we wanted a solution that provided features that are really only available in a cloud-based solution. So scalability, again, having the ability to scale the solution as the volume of documents change was critical. Reliability, having a highly available design, and having the solution available in multiple availability zones was, again, another important factor. And then efficiency. Having AWS manage the infrastructure for us allows us to focus on things that are really important. We're not in the data center business, we're in the services business. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about is currently in the process of being procured. It's our integrated claims management system. So we're replacing a 45-year-old mainframe-based integrated claims management system with a new cloud-based solution. Again, we specified a cloud-based solution for all the reasons that I've talked about previously. It's going to be a single integrated system for all of EDD's benefit programs, and will provide a much, much better customer experience. I'd like to close by thanking the teams that have worked tirelessly to modernize EDD. I mean, Nancy touched on it. Honestly, we have some great employees, and they will work 24 hours a day to make these solutions successful. I also want to thank some of our partners, AWS and Intervision. And I want to make the point that I've made it sound really simple doing these projects, but it is not. It's amazing how complex these solutions are. For example, every time we need to pull data from the mainframe, we have to build an API. Every API is unique. Every solution I've talked about requires multiple APIs. So when we talk about migrating to Amazon Connect as our contact center solution, we're not talking about just changing the platform. I mean, honestly, that's the easy part. We're actually integrating AWS with multiple systems to the data that we need for our agents to provide the status of a claim. I also want to thank AWS for giving us the opportunity to talk about this project. Nancy and I are really proud of this project. We'd be more than happy to talk to anybody about it. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Chris. He's going to give us a demo of our contact center solution. Thank you.
Nice. All right. Okay. Well, thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Ron, for introducing all of us to the EDD and EDD Next. I am going to walk through a demo of self-service that has just recently been implemented, last Tuesday, as a matter of fact. And we're already seeing some pretty spectacular results from implementing self-service. So before I begin, I'm Chris Carter. Oh, I guess I don't have my name up there. I'm Chris Carter. I'm a Connect sales specialist with AWS. I work very closely with state agencies in the state of California and other states in the West. And I'm focused solely on our contact center and customer experience solutions. A big part of EDD Next was offloading calls. As Nancy and Ron mentioned, like during the COVID pandemic, there were 50 million calls that came into EDD during that year. That's a lot, right? We don't have enough, when I say we, I mean California EDD, we don't have enough agents to answer that many calls and help every customer. So offering self-service not only helps the customer get answers to their questions, but it frees agents up on the other side of that and allows them then to focus on the customers that really do need that one-on-one interaction. So every time a customer interacts with self-service, it's a twofold gain on the other side of that. So to put it in perspective, when we launched last Tuesday, we had 23,097 customers opt for self-service on one day, on the very first day that this came in. And of those, about 8,400 of them were able to get the answers to their questions through self-service, through authentication and through some other processes. Just Monday, just a couple of days ago, we had over 9,700 people get answers to their questions through self-service. Only 5,000 customers actually made it to an agent or had to go to an agent. So as Ron mentioned, we're seeing two-thirds of the people are now able to get answers through self-service. That is, just a massive difference in not only the agent's life and their, ability to spend more time with customers, but for the customers themselves to get answers to their question. So as I walk through this demo, as Nancy and Ron said, it's not earth-shattering, right? What you're going to hear are things that we kind of expect. As Tony mentioned, this is what we want from our customer service. But it's been very difficult to do this with the legacy systems in place and that tech debt that we had to carry forward. So I'll walk through this. I may go a little quick so we can get to some Q&A, but we'll start here. So right off the bat, there's an incoming customer call, okay? I'm going to stop it right there because right off the bat, we're doing a check. So depending on the phone number that the customer calls, we might already know their language. They may have called the English number or they may have called the Spanish number. If it's Spanish, we're going to just play prompts in Spanish right off the bat. But if they call on the English line, we're going to assume that maybe they just called the first number that they saw. So we're going to do a language check. So during this language check, we are looking up in the back-end systems. Do we have a record for this customer based on their phone number? Do they have a language preference that's already set? And if they do, let's just play the prompts. No more the press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish, press 3 for Vietnamese, and just down the list. So if we already know that, then we can move on. So that's great. At the same time, we're also checking, is the office open? Are we outside of hours? Is it a holiday? Things like that. So we're doing other checks at this point as well. And after all of that is done and we know the language and all of those things, we preload all of the prompts. So if it's English, then we're going to load all the English prompts. If it's Spanish, we load all the Spanish prompts and so on. And by preloading all of those prompts, we can, from a design point of view and our call flows, we can have one call flow. And we can just use basically variables to say play Spanish welcome prompt, play Spanish closing prompt, and so on. And that way, when we make changes to these call flows, we can make them in one place. We don't have to go change them for every single language that is supported. So all of that's happening right off the bat. I haven't even made it past the ring yet, and we're doing quite a bit of work right up front there. So then we play a welcome prompt.
Thank you for calling the California Disability Insurance Program. Regular business hours are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, excluding holidays. Please listen carefully, as our menu options have changed.
Para continuar esta llamada en español, presione o diga 2.
Okay, so right there, that welcome prompt was preloaded. In this case, we didn't have the language, so we played both English and Spanish there, and you could change your language at that point. Immediately after the welcome prompt, we want to prevent spam calls. Public sector entities in general can be hit with spam calls and just bots that are just hitting numbers. So at this point, we're actually going to generate a random number, play it back to the caller, and have them enter that in. Bots have a hard time with that. Maybe they won't now with all the Gen AI stuff, or AI stuff. But at this point right now, that's what we use for spam reduction.
To continue this call, say or enter the following verification code, 6113.
6113.
Okay, so if it's correct, we're going to move on. If it's not correct, you're going to get hung up on. So that's the end of it. One thing I failed to mention with the welcome prompt, the voice that we're using here is built into Amazon Connect. It actually uses our Poly service. Poly has multiple languages that are supported with multiple voices. It's text-to-speech, and it allows you in Amazon Connect to just type the prompt that you want or load it from, like we're doing here with DynamoDB, preloading those prompts. But as Ron mentioned, the flexibility to make changes quickly. We don't have to go, hire the voice actor to make a change to a prompt when we need to. We can respond very, very quickly to the changing needs of the business. So we're using text-to-speech throughout here, and these prompts can be changed dynamically. Okay, so now we're in. Now listen to the main menu. It's way different than we're used to.
For faster service, have your claim ID and weekly benefit amounts ready. You can find both on the SDI online homepage of your MyEDD account, or on the document we mailed after you applied, called the Notice of Computation. How can I help you?
That's the most important part, just how can I help you? We're all used to the press 1 for this, press 2 for this, and sometimes you don't even know where you're supposed to go. You end up getting routed to the wrong place, you wait for a long time, you get to an agent, they transfer you somewhere else. We're now using interactive voice response, and with this, in this case, we're using Amazon Lex as a natural language understanding service. We can just say, how can I help you? And the customer can speak in their language what they need. We map that to an intent, where we try to interpret what they say and map it to an intent, and that intent then drives the IVR experience. They need help with claims, they need help with, eventually we'll have UI and DI and everything on, but I need unemployment insurance help, or I need disability insurance help. The interactive IVR can drive that now, and you can just simply ask a question. Now, what I didn't do here, in the interest of time, if you just sit here and you don't actually answer the question, it will say, you can say, press 1 for this or press 2 for that. It'll walk you through it if you don't answer. But you can just speak in a natural language and drive the interaction that way.
I filed for disability insurance a few weeks ago and would like to check the status of my claim.
Okay, so right there, Lex is going to listen to that. It says they want claim status. It's going to map to that intent. Now, claim status is one of the many different self-service options that are available. We have self-service, like for claim status. You can ask for a receipt, a copy of a payment. Those are the current self-service options that are available. But you can also ask about online filing, benefits, paid family leave, unemployment insurance at some point, payroll taxes and other things like that eventually will be coming as well. So now we're going to start the authentication process. At EDD, to authenticate a user, we need, let's see if I can scroll here, just 1 second. We need what are called strong and fair attributes. So strong attributes are examples are like social security number, a claim ID, and the last day of work. These are things that are obviously unique to that particular person, and we have to have 2 of those 3 in order to be authenticated. Then we have fair attributes, and the fair attributes are date of birth, your weekly benefit amount, and your telephone number. And if we recognize the telephone number when someone comes in, we won't ask for that. We already can see that. So at this point, I'll play the first maybe 1 interaction here because it does go back and forth for all 4. I don't think anybody really needs to hear all of those.
Please provide the following information so we can better assist you. Listen carefully to the following instructions. Say or enter your social security number.
222101103.
The social security number you provided was 222101103. Is this correct? If so, say yes or press 1. If not, say no or press 2.
Yes.
Say or enter, your claim has been processed.
Okay. See if I can pause this. Okay, so it would continue on very much like that. Now ask for the claim ID. If they can't provide a claim ID, then the system will ask them for their last day of work, and it'll continue on with those questions. If we can successfully authenticate that person at that point, we then go to the back-end systems. And as Ron mentioned, these are mainframe, some older systems. And through APIs, Amazon Connect is making calls to these back-end systems and pulling all of the information that we have for that claimant. It could be the status of their claim, their last payment date, when it was mailed, how much their benefits are in total. There's a number of different things. I think dozens and dozens of different prompts that could be played using the information that we have for that claimant. So depending on what they're asking for, we can play any one or number of those prompts. And it also depends on what their current status is. We're waiting more paperwork. Your claim is still being processed. We mailed your check. The prompts are all different based on the information that we have in these back-end systems. So while it seems simple on the surface, just to ask a few questions and then get that status back, there's actually quite a bit of complex work being done behind the scenes. At this point, then, the status will be played.
Your claim has been processed. A payment was issued on September 10, 2024, in the amount of $2,367.86, for the period of January 8, 2024 to January 20, 2024. Depending on your preferred payment method, allow up to 14 days for the payment to issue. Do you want to hear this information again? Say yes, or press 1. Say no, or press 2.
No.
Okay, so they have a status. Hopefully that's the only reason they called. If it's not the only reason they called, though, we do have further options here. And at any point during this, you could have actually just said agent and just gone to an agent as well. So it's important to say that you're not just forced down this self-service path. You can still just get to an agent. At this point now, we're going to do what's called a call deflection check. And the call deflection check is there to see, is the contact center open? Do we have available agents? those types of things. Because you could call on the weekend. And in fact, what did we say, Ron? That 1,400 people called from Thanksgiving, on Thanksgiving and over Saturday and Sunday this last week to get self-service. But if at that point they wanted to talk to an agent, there would not have been an agent available to them. So here we're doing that quick check. We're just going to see, is there an agent available? If so, then we go to page 2.
To return to the previous menu, say, Previous Menu, or press 9. To speak with a representative, say, Agent, or press 0. To end this call, say, End this call, or press 2.
So if agents weren't available or the call center wasn't open, we would offer them the ability to go back through self-service and maybe ask a different question. But in this case, we just want to speak to an agent.
Agent.
It says agent. If they've authenticated, we will offer them a survey as well. It's really important to get that feedback. Was it successful? Did they get the answer to their question? How did the agent perform if we're going to connect to an agent? So there's a survey that's offered here as well.
We are committed to providing quality service. If you would like to participate in a brief automated survey about our customer service, press pound. There is a long wait to speak to a representative. We will save your position in line and call you back in about 10 minutes. Should we call you back on the following number? Say yes, or press 1. Say no, or press 2.
Yes.
We have scheduled your call back. You will be called back when the next representative is available.
So callbacks with Amazon Connect are keep your place in line. So from the moment that that person connected to the system, we maintain that timestamp, and their place in queue is based off that timestamp. So whether you stay on the line and wait for a call, or you're offered a callback and you take that callback, your place in line stays exactly the same. An advantage with Amazon Connect when this happens is billing stops. Like at this point right here, the billing for the system actually stops. You'll keep your place in line, and when you get to the top, then an outbound call is made to that person, and then they're connected with an agent. So again, you don't have to wait. Maybe the wait's 3 hours. Maybe maybe you schedule a callback for a future date and time. There's no need to just sit there on the phone and wait for that. So now a callback happens. And the agent will answer the call. And when they do...
Thank you for calling California Employment Development Department Disability Insurance Branch. How can I help you today?
So when the person calls back, we get a screen like this in Salesforce. So Amazon Connect, in this case, is fully integrated with Salesforce. Amazon Connect can be a standalone application where we provide an agent interface and supervisor interfaces. But it can also, using APIs, can be embedded into CRM and ITSM systems. So in this case, we've brought Connect into Salesforce. And now as an agent, you can work from one place. And through partnership with Intervision, we built not just the Connect integration, but integrations with those back-end systems as well, like the systems that don't have fancy GUI interfaces like this. You can see on the screen here that an agent is notified that they've authenticated in the upper right-hand corner. They passed, and you have the check boxes of all the things that they've already said. So at this point now, an agent doesn't have to ask that person for their birthday, who they dated in college, all those types of things again, right? We already have all that information. There's also information about their claims. So now, as an agent, I can get to work right away with that customer, again, saving time and allowing the agent to take more calls. So that is the complete demo of a disability inbound call. This is a 300 level session, so if you didn't sign up for this, I apologize. But I did want to walk through a little bit about what you just saw and what services are being used. So at the top top left, we have a customer that's making an inbound call. In this case, it's a voice interaction to Amazon Connect, which is the cloud-based contact center solution. That then has the ability to call both Amazon Lex, which is that natural language understanding service, and AWS Lambda, which is think of it as like serverless functions. We use AWS Lambda to pass information that we've collected in Connect, likely through Lex, to other systems. So we can pass it to Salesforce, like the screen pop like you saw just there with that customer's information. We can pass it to DynamoDB that we see here, where that's our NoSQL database service. And that's where we can store things like prompts and status and hours of operation and other things like that. So through Amazon Connect and its flexibility, we can make these calls to these external services and leverage those. So right off the bat, we use Lex. How can I help you? We find out what their intent is. We're also using Lex to authenticate. What is your social? What is your date of birth? Now, those things in particular, we actually could just collect through DTMF, right? You could just press it on your phone. But when you ask things, like, what was your last day of work? Somebody may say November 24th. Well, that you can't do through a phone. Well, I guess you could do 11/24, but you could just say words. And we're using Lex for that, and then again, passing that to Lambda, and then checking those back-end systems and pulling all that information back into Connect. Once we have it in Connect, we can marry it with the prompts that are already there, essentially just holding variables for the payment amount and the dates and things like that, and then we play those prompts back to the user. Coming down the stack here a little bit, we're going to get the claim and payment status through Lambda. We're getting those prompts. We're getting the office hours. We're getting all the status instructions, things like that. All of that is being passed through AWS Lambda back to DynamoDB. Further down, we're instrumenting this whole thing. So the logs, every contact has a full trace log, so we know exactly what path they took through the IVR. We also have contact trace records, which are used to say, like, when did they call, how long were they waiting in a queue, what agent did they get connected to, like things like that. And all of that is stored in a combination of CloudWatch and Amazon S3. And then finally down at the bottom, this is not implemented right now, but will be soon. You'll be able to ask for, like, where's my nearest office? And using things like zip code lookup, we'll be able to go back to the American Job Center using their API and provide that information back as well. And then ultimately, all of this then eventually, if they get to an agent, connects to an agent, and that agent is using Salesforce as the interface today. I'm going to move on to the next one, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So the second demo is claims management. So when somebody files for, let's say, disability insurance, there may be information that's needed that wasn't in the claim. Maybe their last day of work or some other missing information. The claims management office processes those filed claims. So as an agent, they have a system called SDI Online, and there's a work item queue that basically gets sent to a claims management office representative or CMO representative. When they get that, let's see if I can go through, put that back down here. So when they get this claim, or it gets pulled back from SDI Online, they can then go to Salesforce and initiate a call for that customer. So they'll click on the CMO outbound call, which is one of built-in or a link that's been created inside of Salesforce for that agent to work from. When they click on that, they're presented a form. In this form, they can enter the claim ID, the telephone number, and other information about that particular person's claim. It looks like this. So you can see that they can enter like the language preference of that person, the reason for the call, like various reasons that might be there, the claim ID at the top. And we had to blur this out today because we had a phone number in there we shouldn't have had. So there is a phone number there as well, but you just can't see it. So with that phone number then, that basically is going to initiate an outbound call. Now when that outbound call happens, there's one of two things that are going to happen. Let me go back over here. An agent is either going to connect with a person or they're not, right? So somebody's going to pick up or they're not. Now if they do pick up, the agent can ask the question of that person, when was your last day at work, whatever the information is needed. The person might have the answer right then or they might not. Or if they don't pick up, then we don't have an answer to that question either. So inside of Salesforce, once the agent enters all the information that you saw on that previous screen, they're going to click on the phone number, which is hidden now, but it is right there. That's going to initiate an outbound call. That outbound call, inside of Salesforce, you can see all of the information for that claims management representative at the top of the screen. At this point, again, they're either going to answer the question or they're not. If they don't answer the question, or if we're expecting a call back for some reason, the agent can set this disposition code to call back, or it says, is a callback needed? And they can say yes. And at this point, when they do that, we're actually writing a record back to Amazon DynamoDB with all of this information, and including the agent's information. And what this allows us to do now, when that person calls back, we're going to look up that table and see, are we expecting a callback from this person? And if so, what agent did what was researching this claim? We'll check to see if that agent is available, and if that agent is available, we'll route the call to that agent through a task, and you'll see that here in a second. But it allows us now to be more efficient, right? They're not calling back and starting from scratch. All the information is already here. That agent, that claims management agent has already started the work there. So it's a very simple architecture. We start in Salesforce. We enter the information. Connect makes an outbound call, and then we're using Lambda with that claim information to write back to DynamoDB if we're expecting a callback from that person. So now they call back. So in this case, we'll just say they didn't pick up. So we left a voicemail. We don't leave a lot of information in the voicemail. There's still PII involved. You don't know, who's actually going to listen to that. So it's just, please call me back. Here's the phone number at your earliest convenience. So the customer will call back that phone number. We'll set the language to English immediately. We'll do a holiday and after hours check. And then we play a welcome prompt. And then immediately we're going to look to see we're going to go through that Dynamo table and we're going to see are we expecting a callback from this customer? If so, well, let's say if not. So if not, they're just going to get redirected back to the main disability insurance line. But if so, then we're going to set the language to the language that was set by the agent earlier when they filled out that form. So now we're going to play all the prompts in that language. If the original agent is available, you can see the path across the top there, we're going to route to that agent. And then we're going to play a quick whisper in their ear. You're getting a call from this person. And we'll pop something up on the screen here as well, and you'll see that. But if not, oops, sorry. Well, that's right here. So if the agent is available, the agent's going to get routed a call. They can answer that call, and all of that claim information is brought right back up to the screen just like it was before. So it's as if they picked up the first time. But if the agent wasn't available at that time, we'll prompt the customer to leave a message. And here's where we use Amazon Transcribe to transcribe that customer's voice message into text. And we take that text and all of the information you see on the lower right-hand side there, and we attach them all to what's called an Amazon Connect task. And that task is then routed to that agent. It's routed just like a chat would be or a phone call would be, but now a task goes up. So think of it as like out-of-band activities that contact center agents might work with. So the message is transcribed. All of this information is connected to that task. The agent sees it just like a call. So when the agent does, they come back from lunch or wherever they were, as soon as they're available again, that task will get routed to that agent. And when they open it up, then all of that information about that claim caller is there, including, and we don't have a screenshot of it here because this just went live last week, but including the transcription of what that customer stated as well. So again, much more efficient than like literally they leave a voicemail, but now agents don't have to go listen to it. We have ways now to track who, did the agent answer that task? Did they get back with the customer? All of this from an analytical point of view is now all tracked. Architecture of this, again, not overly complex here. There's a voice interaction that takes place. And again, it could be an inbound call from the customer or an outbound call from Connect. But in this case, the customer's calling back. We gather their input through Lex. We use Lambda to interact with DynamoDB to load all that data back in because we were expecting a call. And then whether the agent is or isn't available, we still generate a task, and that task is then what populates Salesforce for that agent. So that is it for me. And at this point, I think we're open up for Q&A.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you all in the audience. It's officially 5:30. I don't even have a watch on, but it is 5:30, which means it is time for us to get out of here. And there we go. Please, thank you again for coming. QR on the screen. Fill out the survey if you have a few moments this afternoon or this evening on your way to happy hour or dinner, wherever the evening takes you. Once again, thank you very much, Ron, Nancy, Chris, Great session. Thank you so much. And thank you, audience, for the questions.
Thank you.